What's up, everybody? For this design, I want to develop a mouthguard container. I'm going to go ahead and try to 3D print that as well. I want it to be able to hold my mouthguard for Jiu-Jitsu. And there's a few things I want this design to incorporate. I want it to have a living hinge. As you can see, there's a hinge built into the design, and that's what's called a living hinge. Also, I want it to have a snap fit design. The snap fit on this design broke. So I want to build a more robust snap fit design that allow me to keep this container shut. And lastly, I want to design a tongue and groove. And for the tongue and groove would be around the outside edges. Allow this to seal to prevent anything from getting in or getting out. And for the material, I want it to be a clear material as well. I think it'll be pretty cool to try to 3D print a clear material to see how it looks. So let's get to it. For the material selection, I wanted to go ahead with this PETG translucent, and this will be a clear material. I'll show you that right now. So as you can see here, it's pretty clear. See if you can see through that. My only issue that I'm going to have here with the living hinge design, it looks like this material permanently deforms when you bend it. So that might be an issue. If the material doesn't work out, I'll go ahead and try out another material. As you can see, it already wants to break off after spinning it around. It already broke, so we'll test it out. If it doesn't work, I'll try out a different material. Here you can see we have the first design. For this first design, I'll go ahead and explain living hinge here. And then I'll go ahead and explain the snap fit design. As you can see, this is the overall design, as well as these push buttons here. For the living hinge design, you can see the design that I have here. I went in and got this from a book that I have, Part Design for Injection Molding. And I'll go ahead and show a snippet of that now. So pretty much what a living hinge I can show you on the mouthguard container I currently have is the hinge built into the part. You can see the cross section here. It's pretty similar to this design. This is a cross section, but this is a scale of 5:1 of my current design. So you can see here it lets you hinge the part. Some issues we might have with the hinge, the material has to be somewhat soft or flexible enough to allow you to hinge it. The issue I might have here with the PETG, the material is pretty hard, so it might break. If we run into that issue, I could try to switch the material, or worst case, we'll go ahead and switch the hinge design. For the snap fit design, you can see here, this is the top of the container, and this is the bottom of the container. Here I have my cantilever beam, or my snap fit, and I have a lead-in chamfer here. So as this part goes in, it'll deflect the material, or this will deflect itself. It'll come up and snap into place. And on the left side here, I have a push button. I'll go ahead and show you that. So when I push this button, it should push this back to release the snap fit. I'll go ahead and show a 3D printed part cross section just to give a better example of this. For this next design, I'm going to go over snap fit design. So the design I have for the snap fit pretty much allows these two parts to mate together. It's typically used in plastic parts. And for the design I have here, I have a lead-in chamfer at the top of the cantilever. As it comes in, it'll press against this edge here. It'll come up and then snap into place. So you can see here, the lip here will snap into this feature. And the way I wanted to design it was to have this push button here to press this back out and cause this part to come out of place. So that's kind of the feature I have for this design, and we'll go ahead and see how that works. And this is just a cross section there. With the tongue and groove design I have here, as you can see, I have a lead-in chamfer. And when this part comes in, here we have the groove at the top and the tongue at the bottom. I have a lead-in chamfer on both edges, on the groove, as well as the tongue at the top. And I want it to be sealing at this top surface, as well as the outside edges. So I can go ahead and show a design for this as well. For this tongue and groove design, I went ahead and printed out a scale 5:1 of the tongue and groove design that I have. And you can see here, this is the tongue and this is the groove. And the goal of a tongue and groove is to seal the surfaces. So essentially used to replace an O-ring. You can go ahead and seal the surface from the inside, from the outside. So let's say you have a liquid on the outside trying to come in. When these are engaged, it's going to go ahead and seal the surface here, and it won't allow any liquid through. So similar to an O-ring. So I'll go ahead and show you how this engages. So you'll see here, when they're pressed together, this material starts to deflect a bit, but it seals on all three surfaces, the edges as well as the top here. So that's pretty much what the tongue and groove is doing. Another thing to note, it's pretty difficult to remove this. It's going to require a lot of force. So that might be an issue later on in the design. We may have to remove that if it's an issue. For this first design for my mouthguard container, you can see here I printed this out of PETG, but I ran into an issue. The living hinge is giving me an issue due to the PETG material being too rigid. It's not able to bend here, and instead it sheared off here, so it broke. So I may need to consider a different material due to this, but you can see here everything else lands in place. Fits pretty well. Push buttons seem to work. Snap fit works. Tongue and groove works. But we may have some issues when we actually work the hinge into place. But let's go ahead and see how that works. Also, we can go ahead and place my mouthguard in here and see if that fits. So it does seem to fit. We'll go ahead and close this. And it closes. So what I want to do now, I want to try this out of a different material. I want to try this out of a polypro material, but the issue I might have is with polypro material, it's very difficult to 3D print. Also, I need to adhere it to the bed properly, which I might have some other issues. So I'll go ahead and go into that design right now. For this design, I went with a simpler design. Instead of having two snap fits, I just want to have one on each side. And I still want to go ahead and try out this push button design here. And I want to try out the living hinge as well. But the difference here, I'm going to be trying this out of a polypro material. So we're going to go ahead and 3D print that and see how it goes. So here's the polypro part. Out of various 3D printing, a lot of mistakes, a lot of issues, a lot of different parts, finally came up with, this is my best one yet. You can see it's a lot of warping. I used a lot of glue to try to hold this to the bed. I had a lot of issues there. You can see a lot of scuffs here. I'm not sure why the surface is like that. Probably due to the thin wall. But the good thing, you see the living hinge here seems to work. Although it does leave a white mark there, meaning that it's probably breaking the material, but the living hinge does seem to work. So that's a plus. That's what I was looking for. However, when looking at the snap fit, they sheared off. This was the issue I was mentioning. Due to the layer lines being in this direction, they're able to shear off, and you can see where they sheared off into the snap fit there, where the push button is. It's sheared off on both sides. So it does close. The living hinge works. The snap fits keep breaking. So due to this being very difficult material, I'm happy that the living hinge works, but I'm not happy with the snap fits breaking. I'm not happy with how difficult it is to print just to get one good result. So I'm going to go back to the PETG material, and I'm going to redesign it in a way to have these snap fits insertable so I could print them on their sides. When I print them on the sides, it'll make them more rigid. I also want to have these push buttons insertable as well. These built into the part aren't working as well, so if I have an insertable push button, I think that'll be a lot better. And I'm thinking of removing this tongue and groove just to simplify the design. When you're coming into place here, the tongue and groove is difficult to engage, and when it does engage, it's hard to come out. So we'll go ahead and try those different designs, and let's get to the next design. I forgot to add, let's go ahead and throw that mouth guard in there. It should fit again. It does fit. It looks a lot cooler because it's black. But once again, material is very difficult to work with. So we're going to go ahead and switch the material out. For this last design, you can see I went through a lot of changes on this one. See that I removed the snap fits and I removed the push button. And also I changed the hinge design. I was having a lot of issues with the hinge. So I went in and switched to just a standard hinge, kind of like your door hinge. I can explain that design soon. I went in and added these angles here to avoid any supports underneath. And the issue I was having with supports, whenever I'd have to remove the supports, it was damaging the surface below and would damage the hinge as well. So without having any supports in this design, it allows me to have a lot less removal of material and cleaner surfaces. You can see I also removed the tongue and groove. The tongue and groove was adding a lot of extra force required to open the hinge, or pretty much open the mouth guard container. So I went ahead and removed that just to simplify the design. And lastly, on this right side here and left side, I moved it to the flat surface. They're kind of on the curved surface. So I moved the design here to this flat surface to make it a lot simpler. And on this right side, I'm going to go ahead and add a snap fit design here. Insertable. So issues I was having when printing in this orientation, the snap fit would break off due to the layer lines. So I want to have the snap fit insertable, and I can go ahead and print the snap fit on its side to give it more rigidity. Same thing for the push button here. I went ahead and added a way to insert this push button, and this would come in and snap fit on this side as well. So I'll go ahead and show the cross section for that to explain the design a little bit more. Here's how the snap fit looks. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this part in. This is printed on the side, so it won't break off. And the issue that we might have is just inserting this part. But otherwise, you can see snap fit right here. And then we add this top portion here and the push button at the top. So I'll go ahead and 3D print a cross section of this, and I'll show the design. I'll scale it up so I can show you a better example of how this works. For the final design for a mouthguard container, I went ahead and designed it with insertable snap fit designs. And the reason is, when I was 3D printing in this direction, the layer lines were in this direction, and the snap fit would shear off. So now I'm able to print it in this direction flat, and the layer lines are in this direction, and it's not able to shear off as easily. So I went ahead and redesigned it to have the snap fit to snap into the bottom piece, as well as go into the top piece. So here's how it goes into the bottom piece. As we're coming in, we have a lead-in chamfer here and a lead-in chamfer here. It'll slide in, this will deflect, and it'll go ahead and place into here, like so. And this will hold the snap fit in place. So as this is held in place, let's say this is the bottom of the mouthguard container, this part will come in, and once again I have another lead-in chamfer here and here. It'll go in and hook into place, allowing these two parts to mate together. So now that the two parts are mated together, I wanted to design a push button to go ahead and release the snap fit. So what I have here, I designed a push button. It's going to go ahead and come across here, and it'll slide, as you can see, and push this out. Now you're able to open up the mouthguard container. So as you're coming down again, I also have it in a way, when it pushes in place, it'll push this push button out. So I'm able to open up the snap fit and open up the mouthguard container, as well as when I'm closing it, so push the push button out the way and lock into place. So that's how I designed it here. So the way this works for the hinge, I'll go ahead and hide this part here. See, I have a hole here. When I go ahead and add this back, I'll show you the opposite actually. So I have a bar here, or a rod coming right through. So this rod goes through this hole in this piece, and I'm actually able to print this in one piece without having to assemble it. But the way I'm printing it is in this orientation here. I'm printing it like this. And then eventually it'll start to look like this. So let's get to those examples. For the hinge design, I went ahead and switched the hinge design due to the living hinge breaking on the PETG material. And since we're 3D printing these parts, I thought it'd be easier just to 3D print the hinge in one piece. So this is similar to a door hinge here. You can see I can 3D print this in one part. And what it does is these two pieces are solid at the ends, and it has a rod going through the middle. And I'm able to hinge this. So I'm going to go ahead and add this design to my mouthguard container. I'll go ahead and show a cross section here. So you can see in the middle, there's a rod in the middle and a through hole on the other part. So I'll go ahead and take this off. There's the rod sticking out, and there's the through hole of the part. So this goes into place here, and it allows you to hinge it. And then I have the other side solid to go ahead and hold this in place. So that's the hinge design that I have for this. For my last design, I went ahead and sanded all these surfaces here just to clean it up. And also you can see the snap fits, these are inserted. You can see the bottom here as well, inserted through the bottom, and it protrudes out the top. Same thing on both sides. I removed the tongue and groove. It also smooths a lot of these surfaces out. Also, you can see here, my hinge is different. So I went ahead and redesigned the hinge, and it works a lot better without having to worry about the difficulty of a living hinge. Lastly, you can see I have these push buttons here. So let's go through the whole design. So we're gonna go ahead and hinge this into the snap fits, snap it in place. So when it snaps in place, these push buttons are pushed out, you can see. So you can see here, it's not letting me open it. And let's push the push button to see if it opens. So this worked out pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that again. Look at the push buttons. It has a nice snap sound to it as well, which I like. And I can go ahead and open it. So I'll go ahead and do it this way as well. What I also like about this is the push buttons, they push the mouthguard open, mouthguard container open. So I do seem to like that a lot. So we can go ahead and put this in any way we want. It does fit. And then we'll go ahead and open it. So I would call this a success for now. There's obviously a few improvements we can do, but this looks pretty good. So to test this, let's place the mouthguard in here. I'm gonna go ahead and close this. You see, it has to line up perfectly. That could be a little bit of an issue, but it does snap into place. I'm not able to open it, but if I apply a lot of force, I am able to force it open a little bit. So that may be an issue. Let's see if I bang it around, if it opens. Doesn't seem to open, so it's pretty sturdy. But I have to press both push buttons to open it. So that seems to work out pretty well. As we can see, the hinge works out pretty well, pretty durable. And I do like the snaps on here. We'll go ahead and place it this way. Let's try it out again. So I think that turned out pretty good. So some future considerations I want to add here. If I am to add the tongue and groove, there is a way to design it where I lift the hinge up higher, and as the tongue and groove engages, it'll engage at a lower point. So what I'd have to do is kind of come down here and have the tongue and groove engage lower. So that may resolve the issue. Some other improvements I'd like to do here. Because this is 3D printed plastic, due to the layer lines, if I'm using this for a mouthguard container, there may be a lot of bacteria buildup inside the mouthguard. So this is why I went ahead and sanded this down. But even though it's sanded down, it's still kind of rough. It feels smooth to the touch, but it doesn't look the best. Another route you can do, you can use a food grade epoxy to coat this, or you can use maybe some sort of a food grade paint. I'm not sure if there is one. I wasn't able to find any, but I was able to find different epoxies. But that would require a lot more secondary operations or a lot of cleanup. And for a mouthguard container, it might be too much. The other issue I'm having, microplastics, right? So I don't want microplastics in my mouthguard and potentially in my gums or in my mouth. So that's the other issue I'm having with this 3D printed mouthguard container, is microplastics. But as I mentioned, if we were able to find an epoxy that could seal it, and we won't have to worry about the microplastics. So what are my final thoughts? Working with PETG was pretty difficult. The material's a lot harder. Too difficult to work with living hinges. It works pretty well at snap fit when you don't print the snap fit in the same direction as the layer lines. So I have an insertable snap fit. Also, working with a different material such as polypro, this material is very difficult to print. Next time I probably wouldn't work with it as much because the printer is not really made to work with polypro. But it does work for the living hinge design, which is pretty good to see. But also the snap fit, again, would want the snap fits to be insertable. They broke off pretty easily. Lastly, I was pretty happy with the way this design came out, with the push buttons working, as well as the snap fit working, and the mouthguard container fits in here. And I like that snap. The only issue I'm having, once again, is the microplastics and the potential bacteria buildup due to the layer lines. So I think in conclusion, this is a pretty good project. It turned out pretty well. But there's some other things I didn't show, and a lot of scrap, a lot of different designs. And you can see this project took a lot of time. So this is a PLA piece. There's another PLA, a whole bunch of different polychlor parts. So in the future, I'll try to go more modular design as I did to prevent all this extra waste. The modular design, I was only able to focus on the snap fits, and that enabled me to modify the design for the better. So until next one, I'll see you guys in the next one.